virtually. Do we have dans diyor ve toma diyor ve kişiler?
도마도 거기 좀 이제 겸도 성셔나.
Yes.
So nga konsu di mende di konsu tari yu mare. So I will offer mandala in Tibetan and then Rinpoche will lead us refuge in Bodhicitta. So she begi joshi
mendo jamwa
mera mingshi nyimbe gyamba sanje
sanje shindo mide bewa yin
Dogen namda shingla jobar sho idama guru ratna medela gandhi ya
yanda ya mi sanje chedna tsoye chona lan chanjo pardon dame gyazoj na ye chuje ye be zona ye ro la benje san ye ro bara sho san ye chedna tsoye chona chanjo pardon dane gyazoj da ye chuje ye be zona ye ro la benje san ye ro bara sho san ye chedna tsoye chona Chanju bardo dani gyazo jin dagi chushe yiwe zenam yin zhala benje sangye zhu bora shu. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. So please listen to the following teachings with the proper Mahayana motivation, which is to attain enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So we have this wonderful tradition of tuning motivation, which actually converts any activities that we do into a spirit, not only a spiritual practice, but also that of a bodhisattva practice due to the motivation. So even if you sleep with the proper Mahayana motivation of the bodhisattva motivation, which is to attain enlightenment for the sake of all beings. So in order to attain enlightenment for the sentient beings, I would like to nurture my body, so I will eat, so I will sleep, I will rest, I will meditate, so on and so forth. So whatever little actions that we take actually is sort of converted into a bodhisattva practice, a spiritual practice nonetheless. And so therefore, this is a very highly potential practice. So we do that at every Dharma session. At the beginning of every Dharma session, we put the Maya, the motivation, we tune the motivation. So so with that thing aside, now we will get right into the today's topic. So we have the teaching itself is known as the hymn to the world transcendent. So it is actually part of, so the writer or the author of the book is Acharya Nagarjuna, one of the greatest Nalanda masters. And so his Nagarjuna's teachings are usually divided into two sections. One section is known as the wisdom part, the logical section or the wisdom section, and the other one is known as the the praise section or the poem section, or the so of the two, this the booklet that we are going to read today actually falls into the second category of the or the praise section. So even though it is known as the praise section, it actually does deal a lot with the Rikso or the logical aspect of the Buddhist philosophy. So so you might say it actually combines both of them, the Doso and Rikso are both combined in this particular book. In many of the books, such as many of Nagarjuna's writings, such as the Advice to the Friend, which is actually written, is a letter written to the king of the land of the time, were actually good sayings or advices on how to deal with life, how to deal with the matter of the kingdom, and so on and so forth. But this particular text actually is very similar in a way to Lama Tsongkhapa's praise to the dependent origination. So even though it is seen as a praise, or what we would call sort of it is something seen something like a poetic sort of writing, it actually deals with a very profound philosophical aspect of the Dharma. And so this book also, even though it is regarded as a poem, or as part of the praise, the collection of praises, it actually praises Buddha not in this, not in our ordinary sense, which is to say, oh, you have a very beautiful lips, or you have a wonderful figure, and your body is glowing, and that sort of thing. So which is very physical, even though that itself is a wonderful feature of the Buddha, and it actually is a culmination of hundreds, thousands of eons of accumulating great merit. Just like Lama Tsongkhapa himself said, of all the activities of the Buddhas, of all the activities, the best among them is the activity of the speech. So by speaking, by expounding the truth, by speaking the truth, by expressing the truth, by expounding the truth of all phenomena, or you might say the secret doorway to the gateway to nirvana, by expounding that, by expressing that, by sharing that, Buddha becomes the most praiseworthy person in the sort of world, because he actually told us, he actually expounded upon us the pathway to nirvana. So that's what Lama Tsongkhapa wrote in his Dental Doba praise to the dependent origination. Similarly here, by praising Lord Buddha, not because of what his physical attributes are, but because of what he has actually expounded upon, the truth that he has shared and touched upon. So this becomes a much more profound teaching, much more profound way of praising someone. So so this ode to the Buddha, or the hymn to the Buddha, so the term here used was Jigdenle Deba, or in English it would be the world transcendent. So here the difference between the world and the world transcendent, or someone who is the worldly, or the unworldly, or otherworldly, is the the first thing is that the world here refers to the Tibetan word for the term for world here is Jikten, and Jikten actually is made up of two worlds. The first one being Jik, which means decaying, and then the second world is the basis. So the basis of decadence, you might say, is the term used for world here. So the thing here is that the whole, when we talk about the Jikten or the world, usually in Tibetan, we use the term Nujuki Jikten. Nu is the outer world, which is the external world that we live in, and Ju is the internal world, which are actually the inhabitants of the world. So when we refer to the world, we usually refer to the world in two different ways. One as the external world and the world exterior, which is the physical world, the earth or the universe, whichever you may be referring to, and then the world interior, which is the people living in the world. In both terms, the world that we are referring to is as we just talked about, the world jik, the Tibetan word jik means to decay. So the inhabitants of the world, as well as the world interior, as well as the world exterior, both decays. And it decays not just because it is conditioned by impermanence, but also because the world that we live in, as the people who live in the world, both are actually dependent upon our karma or causes and conditions. So because we are conditioned by our own karma, and due to the causal factor of our karma, the world that we live in also is attuned to the same attribute as we are. Meaning, due to our negative karma, we have to live in a world that is unfair, that is not happy to be not satisfying, and so on and so forth. And so both the world interior and the world exterior are decaying in nature, not just, as I said, as I mentioned earlier, not just because they are they are part of not just because they are impermanent, but also because they are dependent upon, or they are conditioned by the cause and conditions, or the causal factors of our karma. The karmic factor is there. And so in that sense, the world is decaying in nature, is decadent in nature. So that world, so the world in the world transcendent here refers to the world that is decadent in nature. So someone who actually is transcending, or someone who has transcended that world, is the Buddha is someone who has transcended that world, the decadent world. So the world, since world is something decadent, so the person who is actually transcendent the world is someone who is actually transcendent decadence. So in that sense, when we say when Nagarjuna praises the world transcendent, when the Buddha, Nagarjuna praises the Buddha, he praises the one who has actually transcended the world, or who has transcended the very nature of decadence. So in this regard, so that is one aspect of looking at the world transcendent, or the world. And another form of world is actually the difference of one very sort of easy way to describe world and world transcendent. Even though it's easy to describe, it's easier said than done. So when you are in the, before one has actually recognized, or before one has actually directly perceived the nature of reality, the essence of what is, the essence of suchness, before one has actually discovered, before one has actually perceived, one has directly perceived the suchness of reality, then that person, or the person and the world that the person is living in, is regarded as worldly. And when that person actually, the practitioner or the meditator, is able to cross over that boundary, the boundary of not being able to directly perceive, directly cognize the suchness of reality, then that person actually transcends the world. So in other words, another another term to use would be before one has become an Arya, before one has become an exalted being, the person is regarded as a worldly person. And when the person actually cross over that boundary, then the person becomes a world transcendent, or Jigdele Deva, someone who is beyond the worldly life. So all in all, Hymn to the Buddha, Hymn to the World Transcendent is the name of the title of the book, and the World Transcendent, as we mentioned earlier, the World Transcendent is a reference to the Buddha in praising the Buddha, not just because of how he looks and how he appears physically and so on and so forth, but for what he has done, what he has accomplished. So therefore, this is praise par excellence. And to put it in Lama Tsongkhapa's words, to praise someone, of all the activities of the activities of the speech is the most excellent activity. So therefore, the Buddha is able to, by praising the Buddha for being able to transcend the world, this praise becomes the most excellent praise, or the most excellent hymn to the Buddha. So now let's dig down to the book. It's the booklet itself. It's so the Sanskrit is Lokatistava, and the Tibetan title is Jigdenle Debar Döba. Jigden, as we have already covered, Jig is to decay, Den is basis, then Le is Le Debar is beyond, and Döba is a hymn or a praise. So praising to the world transcendent, praising to the one who has gone beyond the world. That is the Tibetan title. Now here we see that Nagarjuna. Okay, homage to Manjushri. So this is not written by Nagarjuna. So when a book is translated into the Tibetan, so I think many of you already know this. When a book is translated into Tibetan, there was a it was rule of the it was the rule set by the king, the Dharma kings. So one of the reasons why that, not all kings of Tibet were Dharma kings, but those kings who were referred to as Dharma kings were because they were the patron, a great patron for making sure that the Buddha Dharma is preserved and spread all over the kingdom of Tibet. And for that reason, for making sure that the Buddha Dharma stays in the best condition, and then it is spread all over Tibet. So because the kings made sure, actually it was Tisong Detsen, the king, who ensured all that. So because of that, those kings were known as the Dharma kings, because they were great patron of the Buddha Dharma, in spreading the Buddha Dharma and preserving the Buddha Dharma in Tibet. So therefore, the Dharma king actually set a rule to the translators. So the translators are actually patronized by the sort of the state, the government, which is run by the king. And so the rule is that the Buddha Dharma is divided into the three baskets, or the Tipitakas, the basket of concentration, or the basket of the basket of meditative contemplation, the basket of the wisdom, the basket of Vinaya or the monastic rule. So if a certain text belongs to the wisdom aspect of the Buddha's teaching, so meaning the text, the kind of text that deals with directly with sharpening one's the wisdom, with one's intelligence, that are to be considered, that are categorized as the wisdom aspect of the Buddha's teaching. So it's not just Buddha's canonical teaching itself, but also the commentaries to the Buddha's teaching as well. So once, if it belongs to the the wisdom aspect, or the wisdom aspect of the Buddha's teaching, it should be, the homage should be made to Manjushri. If it belongs to the contemplative, meditative basket, homage should be made to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And if it belongs to the monastic rule and of law, monastic rule, Vinaya, then the homage should be made to the blessed one, the Buddha himself, the one, the all-knowing one. So because the monastic rules were sort of set by the Buddha, because the Buddha knows the best, so and one is not to sort of not to question the rules, because the Buddha knows what is best for us. So therefore, we, instead of saying, there are many different terms for the Buddha. You can say homage to the Buddha. You can say homage to the world transcendent. You can say homage to the one gone into bliss, the Orishapa, and all sort. But instead, you pay homage to the Buddha by saying homage to the one who knows all. So so the one who knows all, the one who knows the very, very minute details of our mind, and therefore it's disruptive as well as distractive factions. So therefore, the Buddha actually set rule according to keep those things in check. That's why the Buddha was paid homage to in the form of homage to the one who knows everything, the one who knows all. So here, the homage is paid to Manjushri. Manjushri is the Jambeyang, or Manjushri is the emanation of wisdom, or you might say Manjushri is the personification of wisdom itself. So all the Buddha's intelligence or wisdom is manifested has manifested as Manjushri. So therefore, by paying homage to the Manjushri, so this is unlike today's time where we have table of contents and everything. On those days, we don't have any of those things. So by just looking at the, so this actually made categorizing the books very much easier. Cataloging. So it's a system of cataloging the books. So when you see from the very beginning, if you see that it's paying homage to Manjushri, you know very easily that this belongs to the wisdom basket of the Tipitaka. So we are paying homage to Manjushri. That means it belongs to the development of wisdom aspect of Buddha's teaching. So now here, the first line goes, I bow to you, the world transcendent, you who are versed in the gnosis of absence, for the benefit of the world. For the benefit of the world, you have suffered long with great compassion. So there are 4 lines here, and the first 2 lines are part of one type of praising the Buddha. The first 2 lines are praising the Buddha by evoking his the wisdom aspect of his qualities. So the first is, so I bow to you, the world transcendent, you who have versed in the gnosis of absence. So gnosis, or the knowledge. So the Buddha is versed in the knowledge of absence. So here, absence here refers to the Tibetan word used was Wemba, void or absence. So here there are two types of absence. Again, we can go something like absence external as well as and absence internal. So the external absence is the absence of inherent existence, inherent reality, that everything is dependent upon causes and conditions, or everything is dependent upon the, everything is dependent originated, or everything is dependent arising. So therefore, they are devoid of having an inherent nature, and that is the absence external, or that is the absence reality. The reality of all phenomena is that it is absent of having an inherent existence. So that is the absence that is the absence exterior. That is the external absence. And that absence is the external reality, or that is the actual reality. And the world, the people who are caught up in samsara, the likes of people like us who are caught up in samsara, are caught up in samsara because we are not able to grasp that actual reality, which we have referred to as the external reality. So, sometimes we say this in our everyday conversation, like you have no idea what's going on in the world. So the world is the outside thing, and because you don't know what's going on outside of what's happening, with you because you have no idea what's happening around you, you have perceptive reality of your own that you have sort of conjured. That is, so the absence, the external absence, or the absence exterior, is the actual reality, or the actual absence that we should be aware of. And the Buddha is aware of that actual reality, or that external reality. And because he is able to realize, because he is able to see that external reality, he is able to perceive through the actual absence, the absence of inherent existence. So absence of inherent existence is the reality, and Buddha actually has cognized, perceived this absence of inherent existence. So therefore, the world for the Buddha, as well as the Buddha's perception of the world, both are correct, because they are both absence of having an inherent existence. The world outside is absent of having an inherent nature, and Buddha's mind itself is also devoid of not perceiving an inherently not perceiving an inherent reality. So because Buddha's perception is also devoid of perceiving an inherent reality, it is absent of the inherent existence internally. So there is the absence external, as well as the absence exterior, as well as the absence interior. So that is one way of referring to the absence here. And another absence here is because Buddha, so the reality of nature, is that they are devoid of having an inherent existence. And the Buddha is aware of that reality, which is the actual reality. And because of that, the Buddha's mind, the mental stream, Buddha's mental continuum, the mental continuum of the Buddha, or the psyche of the Buddha, is void of the two delusions, the delusions of the knowledge, and the delusion of the clashes, the delusion of the delusions of the clashes, delusion of the what's the new
mental affliction?
Mental affliction. You have afflictions, yeah. So the delusion of the afflictive emotions as well as the delusion of the knowledge, both are absent in Buddha's case. So therefore, the absence here is not just the absence in reality, but absence in Buddha's. There is the absence of that delusion in Buddha's mental continuum. So therefore, Buddha's mental continuum, the Buddha's psyche is free, is absent of all these delusional factors or the delusional elaborations. So therefore, when in the first two lines,
that class, I went to it. It's good. You'll get a lot out of it, even if you only get like 20 minutes. It's worth going to.
So here, the Nagarjuna is praising to Buddha, the world transcendent, for transcending the world, transcending the nature of decadence through being well versed in the gnosis of absence by absenting into, or by isolating himself into the absence of inherent reality. Not just in the external world, but also in his mental continuum as well, and on top of that, being absent of or being devoid of the delusional elaborations of both mental afflictions as well as the delusion of the knowledge. So the first two lines is actually praising the Lord Buddha, the world transcendent, by touching upon his wisdom sort of attributes, wisdom attributes. So usually we talk about the two, the knowledge as the knowledge, the knowledge, because of the quality of knowledge, the quality of wisdom, the quality of being able to perceive, the quality of perception, the quality of knowledge, and then the other quality is the quality of compassion, right? So sometimes we usually refer to that as the method and the compassion. So the first the first two lines is actually praising the Buddha by touching up by expounding on his perceiving nature, the excellent attributes of the Buddha's perceiving nature, for being able to perceive into directly perceive and sear through the mask or the delusion, the masking of the delusions. So the first one is praising the Buddha for being able to for his qualitative nature of his wisdom. The first two lines are praising the Buddha for possessing such a qualitative mind. And the second is, for the benefit of the world, you have suffered long with great compassion. So for the benefit, so this is to praise to his what we call the loving kindness and compassion aspect of the Buddha's qualitative Buddha's mind, or to put it simply, you might say the first one is to praise the Buddha's brain, and the second one is to praise the Buddha's heart. So for having a great mind as well as having a great heart. heart. And so even if you have a great mind, if you are not using that for the benefit of others, if you use that mind just to benefit yourself, just to in a selfish manner, then it is of not much help or of benefit to measure for us. And so therefore, maybe you will not be praiseworthy. But because the Buddha not only possessed such a great mind, but also possessed such a not only possesses such a profound mind, but also possesses such a great compassion, a great heart, such a large heart for the whole world, so that even though he himself has seen through the bare nature of the reality, in order to benefit the whole world, he keeps he has suffered long enough with greater compassion. So here there's a lot of thing to there are a lot of things for us to ponder into. So of course there are many of course the Buddha has suffered long physically. So if you look at many of the Buddha's lives, like there is the if you look at the if you read the sutras, such as the sutras of the wise and the fool and so on and so forth, and then the 100 lives lives of the Buddhas and so on and so forth, you will see that Buddha actually suffered a lot. So these are more like the accounted sort of life stories of the Buddha in his previous lives. But then there are so many others which are not accounted for. So you will see that Buddha suffered a lot in order to benefit others, to benefit sentient beings like us. But more than that, if you look at all the stories, it is all the hardship that the Buddha went through in order to benefit sentient beings like us is actually a physical suffering. You will see that Buddha being, for example, like if you remember the life story of Buddha, where he gives up his body to a family of tiger and cubs, which were not able to get food and so on and so forth. So these were, all these were physical hardships that he has endured. They are the physical sacrifices that he has made. But more than that, if you look at not the previous avatars of the Buddha, but the avatar of the Buddha Shakyamuni, Prince Siddhartha, who became a Buddha, he himself. If you look at the life of Prince Siddhartha himself, when he started teaching, you will see that he actually taught not, even though he taught a number of teachings, 84,000 volumes in, that is something that we put up generally. It can be, it is usually sort of divided into 3 segments. The first turning of the wheel, the second turning of the Dharma wheel, and the third turning of the Dharma wheel. And that these 3 turnings of the Dharma wheel actually are turned for different sects, different mental capabilities of the audience. So you will see, in order to make us understand, make us see, in order to make us understand and see the reality as it is, the Buddha actually struggled. I don't know if that's the right word to use. So struggled a lot in order to, for those who is not able to grasp the void of inherent nature right away, those who are not ready for the naked truth, Buddha actually so keeps on pulling off layer by the wheels that were put on the truth, layer by layer. So he uncovers different truth for different people. So for those who are not ready for the naked truth, he does not uncover them all. And in order to do that, you will see, to keep us, it's not necessarily a secret, but it's something that if you know the whole truth, and if you have to, you cannot tell the whole truth to somebody, even though it is of dire necessity that that person should see the truth as fast as as quick as they should, because otherwise that person is going to suffer going to suffer a lot. But if you tell the whole truth, that person will not be able to gulp it down, and so therefore that person might actually it might backfire. So therefore you have to like dilute the truth, you know. So even in our day-to-day life, if you have to do that in our day-to-day life, in our worldly life, when we have to dilute the truth to somebody, how you feel, you know, how maybe, you know, how guilty you would feel, how difficult that would be for us. So you can understand the Buddha's situation here. So here, when we say you have suffered long with great compassion, we're not just talking about Buddha's the sacrifices that he had made, not only the physical sacrifices that he had made in order to not conceal the truth for those who are not ready yet. You know, not just the physical sort of sacrifices that he has made, but also the mental sacrifices, you know, the mental aspect of the suffering that he has gone through in order to conceal the truth for those who are not ready yet. So, you know, if we just, you know, if you take a moment to pause and ponder over that, then you will understand how much he has, you know, sort of suffered. So suffering, it's not necessarily a suffering because Buddha does not suffer like we do, because he's free from suffering. But this is a term. This is it is a word used in a poetic manner for us to, in order for us to understand the reality, the truth. Nagarjuna has to use words that were not actually available for the Buddha, not actually available in the Buddha's world, in the world of enlightened being. But for us to understand that, he need to use words such as suffering, so that we can have a, you know, we can grasp the depth of the sacrifices that the Buddha made for us. So you have suffered long with great compassion. So as we said earlier, the first two lines actually deals with the wisdom aspect, and the second two lines deals with the compassion aspect. Now the second line, is okay. After this is the apart from the mere aggregates, no sentient beings exist. You uphold. Yet, great sage, you continue to remain perfectly immersed in the welfare of beings. So, so this is something called putting up two contradictory seeming or putting up or amalgamating two contradictory or seemingly contradictory entities. So what he and actually this is a type of way of writing a poetic verse in the Indo-Tibetan culture of liturgy. So that apart from mere aggregates, no sentient beings exist, you uphold. So in one way, you say that no sentient being exists apart from the aggregates. So when you actually break down the mere, each and every aggregate, then there is no sentient beings there. And the sentient beings are mere, a sentient being is a mere label, a person is a mere label that is tagged upon the amalgamation of all the aggregates put together. So therefore, when you, and even the aggregates such as the, the physical aggregate of the body, and then the emotion, and all these things, when you go further, when you dig further and further, when you dig deeper and deeper, even they disintegrates into smaller and smaller entities, such as the atoms and things like that. So therefore, if you dig down, if you dig down deeply, no such thing as a sentient being exists. this is something that you have expounded, right? But at the same time, you, the great sage, continue to remain not just immersed in the welfare of beings, but perfectly immersed in the welfare of beings. So here, the term perfectly actually syncs very well with the word suffered in the first line, the last line of the first verse. the first line, the first word of the second line's second verse's fourth line, actually, the word perfectly actually is the word perfectly lines perfectly with the word suffered in the fourth line of this first verse. So here, the Nagarjuna is saying the great sage, the Buddha, not just continue to remain for the welfare of well-being of the sentient beings, but he remained perfectly immersed, meaning he is totally immersed in the welfare of sentient beings. And so when he is perfectly immersed or totally immersed, he is not just taking care of the welfare of the sentient beings, not just of their physical well-being, but also that of their mental well-being as well. So whatever is lacking with a sentient being, that void is actually taken care of by the Buddha. So therefore, the great sage is perfectly immersed in the welfare of beings. So if you miss something, if you are amiss somewhere here and there, then you are not perfectly immersed. There is something amiss. But here, the Buddha never misses a chance to support and to alleviate the suffering of a sentient being in whichever realm it may occur. So therefore, he is perfectly immersed in the welfare of the beings. So, so in order to be perfectly immersed in the welfare of all beings, you have to suffer long enough to do so. So suffer again is a term, is a poetic term used here. So the Buddha has to sacrifice a lot, to endure a lot, to immerse perfectly in the welfare of the beings. So therefore, so these two seemingly contradictory attributes of the Buddha are amalgamated, are put together, are assembled or affixed together in this verse, in the second verse. So even though you say that there's no such thing as a sentient being, the sentient beings are just amalgamation of all the aggregates put together, but at the same time, you remain totally, deeply immersed in the welfare of all beings. So therefore, in a way, even though you are saying no sentient beings exist in reality, but at the same time, you are somehow totally immersed in the welfare of the sentient beings. So what it actually tells us is, even though you are saying something like there is no such things are real, but since you are totally immersed in something, totally absorbed in the welfare of, totally absorbed in the welfare of something that you are calling non-existent, it actually makes us wonder that what you are telling us, and by wondering, by doubting what you are expounding upon, we reach upon the conclusion that you are actually talking about a certain middle way. So that middle way is that no sentient beings exist inherently, but no sentient beings exist on its own inherently. They are mere labeling, they are merely designated upon the amalgamation of all the aggregates put together. But at the same time, sentient beings do exist, even though they do not exist inherently. They do exist. They are still there. Sentient beings are still there. Their suffering is real. Sentient beings are real. All the pains and cries that they are enduring are all real, even though it is not inherently real. It is real. And so that reality, the reality of the sentient beings as well as the reality of the sentient beings suffering is something that you want to alleviate. And so therefore you remain perfectly immersed in doing so. So, so this seemingly, so there are two, contradictory declarations that there's no sentient beings, but at the same time you in an ordinary conversation, it is something like the Buddha is doing something else and saying something else. You are saying that no sentient beings exist because you said nothing exists inherently, but at the same time you are doing so much for the benefit of the sentient beings. So therefore, it seems like you are doing something other than what you are saying. But in reality, both of these extremities, the extremities of sentient beings not existing, and the extremity of you are being totally immersed in the welfare of the beings, has to meet somewhere in between, and that meeting point is the middle way of existing, not inherently but through dependent origination. So, so you might say indirectly, this is the second line is praising the Buddha for expounding the teachings of the interdependency, not through his speech, but through his action. Now we go to the third verse. So wise one, you have declared to the intelligent ones that aggregates too are comparable to an illusion, a mirage, a city of Gandharva, and a dream. So this is more like more of a follow-up to the first line of the second verse. That so you have said that sentient beings does not exist other than apart from the mere aggregates. The sentient beings does not exist. But at the same time, so therefore one might fall into grasping onto the aggregate itself, the physical aggregate itself. So here, to those who are wise enough, those who are clever enough to see through, those who are intelligent enough, the Buddha has actually declared, the three training of the will, right? So to those who are the most intelligent, those who can those who can comprehend the whole truth, those who are able to comprehend the whole truth, those who are intelligent enough, the Buddha has actually declared that even the aggregates too are not solid enough. The aggregates are also comparable to an illusion, a mirage, a city of Gandharva, and a dream. So a city of Gandharva, or the Tisa, those who are smell eaters, are seen as something that can be conjured in a moment, and also can be disintegrated in a moment as well. So, for like the human beings, the world that the human beings live in, the animals live in, it takes time for the world to disintegrate. It takes time for the world that we live in to build, and also it takes time for the world that we live in to disintegrate as well. Even though the disintegration of the world takes much less time than the building of the world, but still it takes some time. But the city of Gandharva, the Gandharvas, the smell eater, they're due to their karmic effect, the world or the city the Gandharvas live takes just a moment to apparate, and then it takes just a moment to disapparate. So in many of Buddha's teaching, that he has said that even the so-called the basis of the person, which are actually the amalgamation of all the aggregates, even that are not solid enough. So a house is nothing but made of different. A building is nothing but made up of bricks and mortar, and so you might think the bricks and mortar are everything, but it is not so. Even the bricks and mortar are made of smaller particles, and those particles are made of smaller and smaller particles, and then you can go through all the way, and then there's nothing. So this is what he has taught. Now we go to the fourth line. Okay, to which originate from a cause. Without that cause, they do not exist. So why would you not uphold that clearly they are just like reflections? So this is a sort of a the Buddha actually said that without cause and without the proper cause, an effect will not be able to exist. Without a proper cause, the result or the effect will cease to exist. So therefore, it is similar to a mirror and a reflection in the mirror. So a reflection in a mirror is usually something that we use to. A reflection in a mirror is the epitome of falsehood that we use in the world. Normally, we just say, "Oh, it's just a mirror." It's a in Tibetan, we used to say "shigonage momo," which is like a momo in the mirror. So you cannot eat a momo in the mirror unless you eat the momo that is on the table. The momo in the mirror, it cannot be eaten. So in a worldly sense, in our everyday life, a reflection in the mirror is the epitome of falsehood, something that cannot be used, something that cannot be actually something that is non-reliable. So since the reflection in the mirror is dependent upon the mirror, so the reflection of the reflection not of the mirror in the mirror, the reflection within the mirror is dependent upon the mirror. So just as the cause and conditions, the effects of a cause is dependent upon the cause itself. So therefore, cause and condition, which is the basis of all the reality, in a sense. So the basis of reality for cause and condition is the basis of reality. So if you are in the Buddhist world, in Buddhism, we always talk about the law of causality, law of karma. Everything may seem, when you come to if you are new to Buddhist teaching, or if you are new to the Buddhist world, then you will see that for Buddhism, karma is everything. Everything. The law of causality is everything, is prevalent upon everything. So from this perspective, you might think that, okay, everything else can be illusional, everything else can be devoid of having an inherent existence, but cause and conditions, cause and effect, law of causality, karma, so these are actually really, these should be true. They are true. If cause and conditions are not true, if cause and conditions are not real, then how can if you do some, then everything falls apart. So therefore, cause and conditions are true, and cause and conditions should be real. So here, so this is the general understanding of Buddhist philosophy. So people who are new into Buddhism would say is very much aware of the fact that law of causality, or the law of the karma, is everything in the Buddhist teaching. So to those, the Karsa, Nagarjuna is actually, Master Nagarjuna is giving us a wake-up call here, by tapping, by hitting on our head, by saying, hey, if you think this is the truth, then just as the cause is dependent upon the effect is dependent upon the cause, just as a reflection is dependent upon the mirror upon which it appears, isn't it also an illusory thing, illusory phenomena? Cause and condition is also an illusory phenomena, because they are dependent, the effect is dependent upon the cause, and the cause is dependent upon its own cause, and so on and so forth. And so therefore, there is no one cause that you can pinpoint into say, this is the cause, this is the ultimate cause. There's no such thing. All causes are actually following another cause, and it goes into infinity. So therefore, cause and conditions cannot be pinpointed. If you want to pinpoint the cause and the effect, you cannot pinpoint that. Each cause is an effect of another cause, and each effect is the cause for another cause. But if you look for the cause with a capital, T and C, you cannot find it. If you look for the effect as in with a capital THE and capital C, EFFECT, you will not be able to find it. Just as you are not able to pinpoint the sentient being, just as you are not able to pinpoint the person other than by the label that was used, that was tagged upon the amalgamation of all the aggregates put together, the cause and the condition, or the cause and the effect, which is the basic understanding of karma, cannot be pinpointed, cannot be solidly formed or solidly found. So therefore, cause and conditions also are just as you cannot, just as the reflections in a mirror are dependent upon the mirror, the effects are dependent upon the cause, and that cause is also dependent upon another cause, and so on and so forth. So the cause and conditions to which you have dedicated so much of your practice, or so much of your understanding, so much of your life into as a Buddhist, even that thing cannot be solidly based. That thing also is void of having an actual or inherent reality. So there is, so much work, so much hard work that you have put into in order to pinpointing the cause and the conditions, and this is actually what we do a lot. Actually, those not just people who are new into Buddhism, but people who are born into Buddhist culture. Not just people who are new into Buddhist society, but people who are actually born into Buddhist culture, like Tibetans and Chinese and Vietnamese, and all those. We actually substitute, even though we say we do not believe in the God, we actually substitute the karma with the God, and then karma is another name for the God, and then whatever problems that we have by having a God, a creator, a monotheistic, a theistic God, that problem exists just as similarly, because the cause and conditions are the powers that sort of decide everything. It is something up there, it's something like an overseeing, entity that actually overlooks everything, and we are actually doing our time according to the whims of the karma, and which cannot be further than the actual truth that is. So when we talk about cause and condition, we are talking about individual cause and conditions, my cause and my effect. Whatever effects, whatever results that whatever consequences that I'm going through is the result of my own cause and not anyone else's. And there is no the cause that is causing all the consequences that I'm going through. There is, so this is in a way Nagarjuna is referring to that. He's sort of provoking our so-called solidly based truth and understanding of the Buddha Dharma. So in a way, he's actually waking us up, those of us who are new to the Buddha Dharma and think, okay, this is the gist of Buddhism, law of causality. And then he's saying, yeah, but just it is the reality, law of causality is the gist of Buddha Dharma, but is that all? Is that all? Is this all the Buddha is saying, or there's something more to it? So even though there is a exclamation mark at the end of this this verse, actually you can also put a question mark at the end of that line. So anyway, so and actually this is a Nagarjuna belongs to the Madhyamika school, and not just any Madhyamika school, but the Tengyurwa Prasangika Madhyamika school, which actually which is an expert on inferring, the Madhyamika school of inference. So instead of directly saying this and that, by inferring upon something else, by provoking our satisfaction as well as our beliefs into something as it is, Nagarjuna is actually making us wake up and see the truth for ourselves. So it's not just a truth that he is telling us to conform into, but it is by inferring into by inferring, the Prasangika Madhyamikas does not tell us to conform into the truth of what the Buddha expounded, but to explore into the truth that the Buddha has expounded upon us. The four great elements are not perceptible to the eye, so how can entities be perceptible to the eye? Clearly rejecting the apprehension of matter itself, you speak of matter in this manner. So the four elements, or the four great elements, the fire, earth, and wind or air, and water. Fire, earth, wind, water. Fire, earth, air, water. So these are in his the root lines, the root verses or the root lines of the Madhyamika view, Nagarjuna, by inferring, but through inference, he's actually said that the body is not the has a fire element, none of the four elements, but the label, it is the body is the amalgamation of all these elements, and the label that we put up the tag upon it. So he is doing something similar here by saying that the four great elements are not perceptible to the eye. So since the entities, such as on a mug, for example, is made up of the four elements, is made up of the the atoms within it, the particles is made up of all the particles within it. Since that the particles within the mug is not perceptible to the eye, how can entities itself be perceptible to the eye, become perceptible to the eye? By clearly rejecting the apprehension of matter itself, you speak of matter in this manner. So because you cannot, each of the each of the four great elements, each particle that is each building particle of the mug is not apprehensive, is not perceptible to the eye, is not perceptible to our eyes, just as each element within the mug is not perceptible to our eyes, how can we say that we are able to perceive the mug with our eyes? Because the mug is made up of the small particles, and since we are not able to since the very solid nature of the according to your understanding, the very solid nature of the very solid nature or the very basis of the mug is made up of all the small particles within the mug. So since those particles are not perceptible to the eye, how can the entity itself, how can the mug itself be perceptible to the eye? So because but since the mug itself is perceptible to the eye, even though the particles that actually build up the mug is not perceptible to the eye, one can also say that even though one is not able to apprehend the matter, or for this instance, we are using the example of a mug. Even the mug itself, the small particles of the mug itself cannot be apprehended, or even though it is not the mug. So apprehension here has to be understood as the substitute for what it is. So, okay, so even though the small particle that made up the mug is not the mug, but it does the activities, it does the utilities of the mug, of what a mug should be doing by when it is all put together, when it is all assembled together, when it's all amalgamated together. So therefore, even though each particle, just as each particle of the mug is not perceptible to the eye, you can still see the mug, even though each particle of the mug is not the mug, but it does the utilization of a mug through being assembled or through being compacted together as a mug. So that is the truth of a mug. The mug is nothing but the particles that actually made up the mug, but at the same time, all those particles that made up the mug is not the mug, but the utilization of all these particles that actually assemble, are compacted as together as a mug is the mug. That is to be understood. And so this, so usually we talk about like the five when we talk about the five aggregates. So here we are using the one example we are using is the physical aggregate, and now we are going to the mental aggregate, and we start with feeling. So it's the same sort of example, but applied upon feeling rather than instead of the physical aggregate. So since without the felt, there is no feeling, and feeling itself is devoid of self. So you uphold that what is felt too is devoid of intrinsic existence. So this is very interesting. So I usually do this kind of inquiry, self-inquiry, as a meditative practice, not with feeling, but with the inquiry itself. So when I'm inquiring who I am, without me there will be no one. If there is no me, then there won't be an inquirer, and if there is no inquirer, how can I inquire me? So you get into this dog tail sort of thing, a dog chasing its own tail. Since without the felt, there is no feeling. So without something to feel, there will not be any feeling. But since feeling itself, to feel a feeling, there has to be a feeling. For a feeling to feel something, for a feeling to feel a feeling, there should be a feeling. But since feeling itself is devoid of inherent existence and intrinsic nature, then you cannot feel a feeling, because a feeling does not exist intrinsically. So you uphold that what is felt too is devoid of intrinsic existence. So in order to feel something, for a feeling, in order to feel something, you have to have a feeling, and that feeling can only feel a feeling. Since feeling itself, so feeling as a noun, as a feeling as a verb. So feeling as a noun cannot be felt without a feeling as a verb. And since a feeling as a verb, as an adjective, since a feeling as an adjective cannot exist without a feeling as a noun, so therefore the action and the relative nature of the action to the act, that action is related to, that action is connected to, integrated with, is also no longer there, is also devoid of existence. So therefore, there's no self, there's no feeling. But when we talk about it in a conventional manner, of course there is feeling and all that. But when you talk about it in the ultimate sense, the very intrinsic nature of the feeling, then none of them exist. Then none of that exist. So therefore, so here earlier on the verse 5, we are actually dealing with matter, and then on verse 6, we are dealing with mind, mind and matter. And we will go one more. So if a word and its referent are not different, then the word fire would also burn one's mouth, because if they are different, then there will be no comprehension. This the speaker of truth have stated. So here again, in a conventional manner, the word or the name or the noun fire and the fire itself are different. That is easy to understand. If it's different, it doesn't really matter. If it's same, it also doesn't matter that much. But if they are intrinsically existent, if the word is intrinsically existent, if the word fire is intrinsically existing, then if they are one, the word fire and the fire and the word fire itself and the word fire, the name of fire, the title fire, if they are both same intrinsically, then they should be same inherently. And if they are if they are inherently the same thing, then they should be ultimately the same thing. And if in that case, the fire should be able to, the word, when you say the word fire, the word should be able to burn, because it is inherently or ultimately the same thing as the fire. The word fire is same as the fire inherently, ultimately. And also, if they are different in the ultimate way, if they are different in the inherent way, then if the word fire and the fire itself are different, then they are ultimately different, and so therefore they are totally different things. So therefore they are totally unrelated things. So when you mention the word fire, it should have no reference to the element that actually burns things up. So therefore, but again here, the middle ground for meeting of these two extremities lies in the fact that the fire and the word fire are different, not same, but they are different in the conventional way and not in the ultimate way. So if they are ultimately the same thing, then the word fire should burn one's mouth when one utters the word fire. And if they are ultimately the different thing, if not, they are ultimately not the same thing, then they should be ultimately different things. And if they are different, then there will be no link between the word fire and the fire itself. And so therefore, when we utter the word fire, it should make no reference to the element that burns things up. So again, the Kasa Nagarjuna brings us into the teaching of the middle way. Okay. Okay, so maybe the last one here. An agent is autonomous and has actions too. This you have expressed conventionally. If you uphold that they are established only in terms of mutual dependence. So this verse can be applied to if you sort of like put this verse onto the previous verse, or verse number 7. Like if you superposition it onto the verse number 7, they should fit together very perfectly, because the agent and the actor and the actor and his actions both are autonomous on their own. That autonomy is actually a conventional reality. If the action and the actor or the agent here, as the term used here is an agent, right? So the actor or the agent and the action of that agent being autonomous is in the ultimate nature, is in the ultimate sense, then the action and the actor would have no relation at all. And in that manner, whatever action the actor takes, whatever action the agent takes, will have no effect on his action. And so therefore, that action would not be termed as an action because it is not an act, because there are no actor. But since the autonomy of the action and the actor is autonomous only in a conventional way, but not in the ultimate way, or they do not exist inherently. So therefore, it is possible. It's only possible through conventional reality. So you uphold that they are established only in terms of mutual dependence. So an actor is dependent upon the action to become an actor, and the action is dependent upon an actor to become an action. Without an actor, there will be no act, and without an act, there will be no actor. And so they exist only through the mutual dependency. So maybe that is the last one. There exists no agent, no subject to, no merits exist. They all arise through dependency. Though dependently arising, they are unborn. So you have proclaimed, O Master of Words. Then, okay, let's go to the 10th, right? Without being known, it's not an object of knowledge. Without that, there is. So again, as I said earlier, this kind of dog-tail chasing actually provokes and unsettles our decadence, you might say. When we are so comfortably seated into our realities, that is when we fall into decadence. And when that sort of comfort is that comfortableness is shaken, then we are woken up, and then we see the reality that is, rather than the reality that was, or the reality that was projected through our own conjuring, or the conjurance of our conjured by our karma, whether it's positive or negative. So without being known is not an object of knowledge, and without that, without the knowledge, there won't be a consciousness that actually knows an object. So therefore, the knower and the known are again mutually existing through mutual dependence alone, and then there is no intrinsic reality of the knowledge and the knower. So therefore, in many other traditions, many traditions other than the Buddhism, they we talk about the knowledge as the ultimate sort of source of, some things as being the ultimate source of knowledge, and some things as the knowledge as being the ultimate source of happiness or joyfulness or whatever, everything being derived from knowledge, and so on and so forth. So for all these understanding, even some of those are actually non-theistic religion, non-theistic philosophies talk about the knowledge and so on and so forth. And in those understanding, the knowledge is the ultimate reality. The knowledge is real. The knowledge has an inherent or intrinsic nature of existence. And from that intrinsically true nature of the knowledge, everything else is derived. So, you might say that, because Nagarjuna is actually making a, dig at that as well. So I'll stop here for today. And if you have some questions, I'll be happy to take.
I'm not sure I understood you properly. Did you say knowledge?
Mm-hmm. Yes, knowledge, yes.
Knowledge does inherently exist? Is that what you said?
Yes, in other traditions, and in traditions other than Buddhism.
I see. Okay. I was confused. Okay.
Right,
Thank you.
For example, like the Advaita, Vedanta schools, even though they are in Vedantic school, which actually does not believe in the, it is a non-theistic school, does not believe in a creator God, but the knowledge is understood to be the source of where everything is derived from.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I think we can conclude if there's no other questions then.
Richard, are you talking? We can hear you. Yeah, if you cannot speak, maybe you can write down in chat any question.
Yeah. Sometimes did you get mountain and check that? This Okay. Microphone mess. I have not a microphone, but I find this tail chasing exhausting. I find complacency much easier. What is the solution? So I think you have the solution. If you find complacency much easier, then you can, just stay there. You have it. There you have it. The very fact that you are asking a question, actually, when you ask a question, you're actually standing up from the comfort zone that you are, the zone that you are very comfortably seated in, because you find this dog tail chasing exhausting, and then you want to find another solution. That means you are not comfortable in what you in your the present situation, and you want to way out from that, and the way out from that is only through inquiry, and that is what we are doing with this dog chasing thing. And so what happens is, if you keep dog chasing, the dog tail chasing, you keep doing it, and then you suddenly realize that there's nothing to chase. It's your own tail, and that there's nothing to chase, and you do something other than that. So in order to see the futility of the dog tail chasing activity, you actually have to chase the dog tail, or you have to witness that. If you don't do so, you will not be aware of the fact that dog tail chasing is a futile sort of pursuit. Thank you. You're most welcome. Yes. So
No.
So I will conclude here, and thank you everyone for your kind attention and for tuning in. Thank you very much, and then see you next session. And what is the conclusion sort of conclusion ritual? What do you care?
I mean, Sashi, Piggy,
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.